Hello and welcome to Allie in Sweatpants. My name is Allie and I am wearing sweatpants today. It's very exciting. Today I am going to be talking about some free knitting patterns that I have saved lately or have been on my radar lately. I created a bundle on Ravelry. It took me a while to figure out how to do it, embarrassingly enough, but I created a bundle on Ravelry with all the patterns that I'm going to be talking about. And I was gonna do this in one video, but I have over 40 patterns, I think, that I want to highlight. So I'm going to break it up in two, and this is going to be the garments portion. So it'll be sweaters, cardigans. So if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so happy to see you. And if you're new, welcome. I hope that you enjoy. I'm just gonna jump into it. I'm gonna have my phone because that's where I'm going to be referencing the patterns. I will be putting visuals here to talk about. So let's just get in. Whew, dog fur. Also, what I'm wearing, if you haven't been here before, this is my Aosta sweater by Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl, and I knit it in Knit Picks Shine Worsted in the current colorway, which is just this burgundy. It is my uniform. It is my signature. It is my go-to. We are best friends, this sweater and I. And I really need to knit, I keep looking here because I'm trying to pull up the bundle, sorry. I really need to knit another sweater that gives these vibes because I just want some variety. As much as I love her, variety would be nice. Okay, so we're going to get into it now. The first sweater that I have had my eye on is the Hokkaido sweater. I will put, as I always do, the name and the designer on the screen as well. I have this thing where if I feel like I can't pronounce something, I don't even let myself try because I'm so mortified about getting it wrong. And I would hate to get someone's name wrong, even though I probably do it all the time. So everything will be on the screen. This is, let's see here. It comes in 6 sizes. So it goes from an 85 centimeter bust to a 135 centimeter bust. It calls for an Aran weight yarn and 5mm needles. It's a pretty, I don't want to say basic, standard staple style sweater. The thing that I love so much about it is that there is a really cool shoulder construction down the back of the sweater that I think gives it just like ever so slightly more interest. It has some nice chunky ribbing going around, which I think wasn't in, but is kind of in again. And it feels timeless to me. So I think you could do a lot with this sweater. They show it in stripes, they show it plain, they show it with a taller neck, you could do it with a shorter neck. Like, I think it's a very versatile pattern, and I do have some yarn in mind to make this for myself. So the next sweater that I'm going to be talking about is, I saved the flax worsted pattern from Tin Can Knits. They also have the flax light. But if you go on their app, which I wish I was paid because I talk about it all the time, but if you download the Tin Can Knits app, the sweater pattern is there. You can plug in the yarn weight you want to use, you can plug in the size you want to use, and it will generate it for you. Just please, if you haven't, look at it. But so the flax worsted. Now, Tin Can Knits patterns are such a good investment because they range from 0 to 6 months to adult 6XL. And they have, like, for the adult sizes, it's extra small, small/medium, medium/large. So they kind of have these in-between sizes, which I think is so helpful. So the flax worsted calls for worsted weight yarn, 4mm and 5mm needles. And it truly is just, I would say the standout feature of the flax patterns is the garter stitching panels that go down the arms. I have made the flax light sweater. I made a t-shirt version of it and I omitted that. And if you omit it, it is a vanilla stockinette raglan sweater. If you add it, there's a little bit of interest. So this one is just so good. If you wanted it for a baby, if you wanted it for a toddler, teenager, adult, I mean, it really provides every size you could possibly need. And you could do short sleeves, you could do 3/4 length sleeves, you could do long sleeves. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So this is just a great staple raglan, top down, knit in the round sweater for everyone you know, truly. The next sweater is the Metropolis. It is a bulky weight yarn. It calls for 8mm, 6mm, and 7mm needles. It comes in 11 sizes. So with these patterns, I've really tried to range the technique, the construction, the yarn weight, all of that goodness. So this one is bulky. And it has a really thick turtleneck collar, which I think is so cozy, and in bulky yarn, it would be so warm. And it has some really long ribbing down the bottom of the sweater. It looks like a raglan again, but it looks like a pretty subtle raglan. And again, it's just, if you didn't want to do the turtleneck, you don't have to do the turtleneck. If you want to make the ribbing shorter, you can make the ribbing shorter. I mean, all of these patterns, I would say, are pretty modifiable to your preferences, but if you have some bulky weight yarn that you are wanting to make a beautiful sweater out of, I would say that the Metropolis is a really great option. So next is a men's sweater pattern. It's in a language I do not speak. Remember we just talked about this whole not knowing how to pronounce words thing? Vintergrona sweater. It comes in 8 sizes. It calls for sport weight yarn, so we're looking at 2.5mm and 3.5mm needles, which I don't see a ton of sport weight yarns. I do see some, but at least in like the plant fiber world, I don't see a whole lot. So it's kind of an interesting gauge, yarn weight, but I have a feeling you could kind of do some playing around with fingering or DK, because sport is in between fingering and DK weight. This one is pretty cool. It looks like across the back of the neck, you almost knit a strip of fabric and then you pick up below that to knit the rest of the back, which I think is a very interesting detail. It gives it like a little bit more pizzazz, dare I say. And it looks like a, what do they call that? A saddle shoulder? It's like where there's a saddle shoulder and then some shaping, like raglan shaping, but not raglan. Compound shoulder? I have no idea. Don't listen to me. It looks like a saddle shoulder, but the thing that I thought was so cool about this was that strip along the back of the neck. So the next pattern, so those were my kind of like stockinette sweaters. Now we're kind of going into the textured sweater realm. This is the Esterel sweater. And this also calls for sport weight, but we're looking at 3.5 and 3 millimeter needles this time. And it has 8 sizes. So we're ranging from 92 centimeters to 169 centimeter bust. And I believe that this is, yes, it's brioche. And it says here mimicking a cable kind of motif. And it's really cool. The brioche, it looks like you know, like a 2x2 just twisted cable, but it's in brioche, so it also kind of just looks like really cool swirls. It does not say whether it's knit top down or bottom up, or whether it's in the round or not. Because if you knit brioche flat, you don't have to do any brioche purling, but if you knit brioche in the round, you have to do brioche purling, which is not a big deal. It's just, it's kind of fun when you knit it flat because you get in a real flow. I get in a real flow of just doing kind of the same movement over and over and over again. But so that's cool. A very fun swirly brioche sweater. The next textured pattern is marketed as a male sweater. Female sweater, male sweater. We can make it work for whatever we want. I'm just going based off of how they are marketed as a female sweater or a male sweater. But they can be for anyone, obviously. This is the Lodge sweater. It comes in 9 sizes. And we're looking at worsted weight yarn, and this is interesting. It calls for worsted weight yarn, but the needles are 3 millimeter and 4 millimeter needles. So I'm assuming that probably has quite a bit to do with gauge. I am not giving the gauge row and what do they call it here? Whatever. I'm not giving the gauge measurements because personally, I don't find them particularly useful when people are saying them to me. My brain kind of just hears it and goes like, meh. So I'm not saying that. I'm giving you kind of the size ranges, the yarn weight, and the needle size. And if you're interested, you can kind of go and look at the gauge for yourself. But this one is kind of, I would call it like a Gansey style, where it has different panels of different textures, which I think it had quite a moment last year. And since Ganseys are obviously, they date back quite a while, I don't think they will ever go out of style. And this has some cool, the panel that I like the most, it looks like it alternates between stockinette, garter. And I just think like visually that looks very intriguing. So we have that sweater. Now we're moving into colorwork sweaters, which I thought was pretty cool. The first one I will be talking about is the Nova sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. Now Sophie is an incredible designer in and of herself. This is a Knit Pearl Girl design. And every winter she comes out with a free colorwork pattern sweater. So I think there's been 2, and I just saw she just started her podcast back up again, and she was talking about how she's starting to plan for this year's, which is very exciting. But last year's was the Nova sweater, and it's like a circular yoke with kind of geometric colorwork, which I think is really fun. It calls for Aran weight yarn, 4.5 and 3.5 millimeter needles, 12 sizes, which is huge. I think she did mention in her podcast that because they are free patterns, she doesn't have the time to get them tech edited or test knit, but she did say if there are any issues, you could message her and she would be glad to have the feedback. I have not knit, so far I haven't knit any of these patterns that I am talking about. I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning. If there is one that I have knit, I will give my thoughts on the pattern. But I cannot vouch for any of these patterns because I have not made any of these patterns. However, I feel like going with a Knit Pearl Girl design, it really sets you up for success because she's an incredible designer. But yeah, I really love this. Has, I think it's called lice stitch right at the top where it's alternating like 1x1 color work. I have never knit a color work sweater. I have knit 2 different single colorwork socks and I have knit a pair of colorwork mittens for my sister. All 3 projects of which I have found incredibly stressful. However, there's a different Knit Pearl Girl colorwork yoke sweater that I think is going to be my next project. I'm going to do it. I'm going to tackle it. I am tired of being scared of it. So if you want to do that with me, this is a great option. Next, I have the Finch Fair Isle sweater. Now, this one does not have a very good size range. It is 5 sizes. It is fingering weight pattern, so 2.25 and 3mm needles. But it is an all over colorwork sweater. This is by Marie Wallen, which I'm pretty sure she is like the queen of Fair Isle colorwork knitting. So it is very cool that there is a free pattern of hers. I just wish that it was more size inclusive. Looks like it is a 7 color sweater and it's a drop shoulder. It is very cool. I don't know if it is my vibe. I should go through the projects and look at the different color combos that people have done because that can really make or break a project for me. Sometimes I feel like I've thought a project isn't for me and then I see somebody's color combo and I'm like, oh, I'm picking up what you're putting down, you know? So, okay, the next one is sadly also not very size inclusive. 4. We're talking 4 sizes, which does not bode well for me because I like a lot of positive ease. But anyways, the Christmas sweater from Sanna's Garn. And this is just fun. It's a DK weight pattern, so 3mm and 3.5mm needles. And it's just fun. It's an all over Christmas motif colorwork sweater. There's a Rudolph reindeer. There's a smaller reindeer. There's Christmas trees. What are those flowers called? What is the Christmas flower? Poinsettias? Poinsettias? Is that right? There might be poinsettias if that's what the flower is. But anyways, it's very Christmassy. And I love it. I really want to make it. I think I opened the pattern once and it did look a little bit confusing. But I still really, really want to do it. I will say it is a raglan sweater and where the motifs meet at the raglan is not neat at all. So I think I would probably omit, especially at the top where they show the reindeer, I think I would omit the ones closest to the raglan on the sleeves because it just looks, I don't know. But anyway, it's just fun. So the last colorwork sweater that I have is the Jan sweater, marketed as a men's pattern. Again, not great. There's only 5 sizes. It is a worsted weight pattern calling for 3.5 and 4.5mm needles. And it's a very simple colorwork design. I mean, it looks like maybe like a 2x2 alternating color work, but the sample photo colors just really got me. That camel brown with the white and charcoal color work. My boyfriend actually said he really liked this one, so I don't know, we'll see. But it's just a raglan 2x2. Oh, I really, really like those colors a lot. So we'll see. I don't know. That's obviously a bigger endeavor than just a yoked colorwork sweater, but depending on how that one goes, maybe I will consider this one. Now we're going to move on to the one sweater vest that I saved. It is the Tiara vest. It comes in 9 different sizes. It's a worsted weight pattern calling for 5mm and 4mm needles. I love the textures on this sweater. There's cables, there's bobbles, there's little graphic zigzag stitches. There is, it looks like double moss stitch. I think it is just chef's kiss. And I think you could fairly easily modify this to be a sweater. I know that designers say that vests are designed with a bigger arm opening than sweaters. This one does not look very big, so I have a feeling if you didn't do the ribbing, you probably could pick up arm stitches and knit sleeves. I would probably do the braided cables that are going down the sides. I think I would probably do that down the top of the arm, and everything else around it I would do in the double moss stitch. So this is heavy on my radar, definitely. We are now moving into cardigans, which 2 years ago, I was in my sweater era. This year, I'm in my cardigan era. Everything I want to knit, everything that draws me in are cardigans. Which is funny because I wear my cardigans like sweaters. I almost always wear them buttoned, but I think it's just that added element. I don't know, but we're moving into cardigans. The first cardigan is the Dovecourt cardigan. It comes in 6 sizes. It's a worsted weight pattern, and it calls for 4mm and 4.5mm needles. This is an all-over cabled sweater, and it is beautiful. There is a cable motif that goes down, I think, the inside and the back side of your arm, and it looks like little leaves with baubles on top. So it's like a little floral-esque motif, and I just think it is so pretty. Now, I'm not crazy about the cable that goes down the center of the arm. It's like almost one of those like antler like cables, and so I think I would probably switch that out with the braided cable that goes down the center, and I would just do the same stitch count, just a different cable. But I think she is stunning. Hardcore on my radar as well. The next cardigan is the Anley. It comes in 6 sizes. It is a DK weight pattern calling for 4.5 and 4mm needles. It's mostly a stockinette cardigan, but it has this really beautiful lace, eyelet, raglan, and the pattern also shows a contrasting color for the cuffs and all of the ribbing, and I think that looks really, really nice. I think it looks a little bit modern, but also timeless, which we love. So the raglan is almost similar to the Felix raglan, but the eyelets are it's a much more dense. They're not quite as spread out. And I just think it looks so, dare I say, delicate? I think it's very cute. And they also have it in a kid size, I believe. Okay, the next cardigan is the Powell. It comes in 9 sizes, so we're talking a 90 centimeter to 170 centimeter bust circumference. It is a super bulky pattern, so it calls for 8mm needles. I find true worsted, bulky, and super bulky very difficult to find in plant fibers, which is unfortunate. I find a lot of plant fibers that are labeled worsted knit at a DK gauge in my experience. So sadly, these projects aren't the most applicable to me. However, if I did find like a very airy, bulky plant yarn that I could use for it, I would be all over this one. It is not a shawl collar, but it almost gives like, I was gonna say bathrobe, but I feel like that kind of brings the pattern down a couple notches. It's not giving bathrobe. It has these really cool, I bet it's a lot of fun to make. It looks very module. It has these cool ribbed panels almost. And on the back, you can see you knit 2 different sections and then they meet in the middle. And then it looks like you pick up for the stockinette on the bottom half. And I just think it is so interesting. I wonder if you knit like one sleeve, the back, and then the back, and then another sleeve, and then you join them in the middle, because it also looks like the band that goes around the front is picked up. I don't know. It looks very, very interesting to me. I think it would be a lot of fun to make this one. So the next one I have to talk about, I don't know what those little circles over the A's mean. It's the Gardsra cardigan. This one I love the sample photos of. Also in the third picture, can someone tell me if she's holding a fox? Because it looks like, is that a fox? It looks like she's holding a fox. But this one comes in 9 sizes. It's an Aran weight pattern and it calls for 4mm and 5mm needles. This is knit, I think, in all over broken rib. Yes, all over broken rib, and it looks like a saddle drop shoulder. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know if that's even a real thing, but it has like a panel that goes down the shoulder, and then where the sleeves are picked up, it looks like a typical drop sleeve design. I think it's broken rib. Is it fisherman's rib? No, it's broken rib for sure. I think it's broken rib. But I think this one is so beautiful, so timeless. I think it looks really, really cozy and warm. I like that the ribbing around the neck is so minimal. I almost thought that there wasn't any ribbing at all. But I really like that it doesn't take away from the stitch pattern. I like it a lot. Okay, the next cardigan is the Linger. This comes in 9 sizes. It's a bulky weight pattern that calls for 5mm and 6mm needles. Again, I love the color that the sample photo is knit in. This is all over fisherman's rib, half fisherman's rib, excuse me. And it is top down, it says. And it looks like it has pockets, which pockets on knitwear, do I think that they are the most practical? No, maybe not. Do I think that they are so cute? Yes, I do. So I would totally add them onto this sweater. It looks like a raglan design. And again, I think half fisherman's rib is so squishy that I think that this would kind of be like a pillow jacket. Okay, the last cardigan that I have to talk about is the Turtle Dove cardigan. It comes in 9 sizes. It is a DK weight pattern and it calls for 4.5, 5, and 5.5mm needles. They also have a Turtle Dove sweater that is a free pattern. And I just think that this looks very modern. Very modern, very chic. It looks like the button band isn't incorporated. It's not a button band. It doesn't call for buttons, but for lack of a better term. It looks like it's an incorporated button band, like maybe you knit it while you are knitting the body of the cardigan. It's a raglan design. The only thing about the turtle dove patterns that I have noticed, and I think also applies to this, is it's a quite a deep raglan, so it almost gives like that batwing effect, which I am not a huge fan of because I don't like when I lift my arms and my top comes with me. I like to stay covered when I want to lift my arms up. And with that super drop shoulder design, the whole thing, the whole sweater, it'll come up with you. But I think you could probably modify that. You just need to get to the width that you want, and then you get to the length that you want, and then you just, you know, split the sleeves off and go from there. So I think that is all I'm going to talk about in this video. The next one will cover accessories and baby knits. So stay tuned for that if you enjoyed this one. I love watching the free patterns that people have found. I love watching pattern recommendation videos in general, but I think it's a little bit extra fun when they are free because that means they are easily accessible for more people. So I hope that you enjoyed, and I'm so glad that you came to spend your time with me. I know that there are so many knitting podcasts and YouTubers that you could have spent your time with, so I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I would love to know what you were working on, if you were working on anything while watching this, and I will be back when I have more to talk about. Bye!